After 9/11, the president had a 94% approval rating because on 9/12, everybody was an American. On 9/12, we were all Americans. We weren't Republican, Democrat, we were all Americans. And I just pray to God that something like that doesn't have to happen again before we're all Americans again. And we need to require that from our leaders. We need to require them to behave and start acting like adults. And if we do that as voters, you know what? They'll start behaving that way when they know that we require that. And this room is full of independents. They need every one of you. They need every one of your votes to win this election. And if you let them know that that's what you expect, then they'll start showing it. Well, good evening, and thank you for joining us live for our post-debate town hall here on Merit TV. Now, this town hall is brought to you in part by the film Reagan, playing in theaters now. Go see it today. You can check your local listings. By the way, I've seen it, and it is really compelling. Tonight's audience is full of local independent voters, the majority of whom are from Tarrant County, Texas, which has been reported as one of the 15 battleground counties that could play a key role in this year's presidential election. We're going to find out which candidate voters feel won tonight's debate, and was there anything Donald Trump or Kamala Harris said that changed voters' minds. Plus, top behavior and body language experts, my dear friends Greg Hartley and Scott Rouse from the behavior panel are here to share what they saw after analyzing both candidates. You don't want to talk in front of these guys because they see what you don't say and hear what you don't say. But we'll talk to them here in just a little bit. So let's get started. First off, I'm interested in whether or not you thought tonight's debate was facilitated in a fair fashion or whether you thought it was facilitated in a biased fashion. If you thought the debate tonight was moderated fairly, raise your hand. Raise it real high so the camera can get it. Okay, that looks like maybe about half of you. If you think it was not fair, raise your hand. Okay, so more than half of you did think it was moderated fairly. Some of you did not think so. Who wants to tell me why you think it was not moderated fairly? Somebody raise your hand that wants to tell me why. Stand up if you will in the back in the suit, okay. Need a mic over here quickly. Where are my guys? You guys stay in the aisles here. I don't care if you're on camera or not. Stay close, okay? Say your first name and tell me why you think it was not moderated fairly.
First name is Vance. I don't feel it was moderated. I felt she kind of cut him off. Felt like multiple times there was just people cutting people off, specifically her.
That Kamala Harris was...
Yeah, they would just be like, cut it off and didn't give him enough time to respond or her enough time to respond. I just felt there was a lot of cutoff.
Okay. Well, now I don't want to cut you off, so I think it would be unfair. All right, good. Who else has an opinion about this? Anybody else that thinks it was not fair tonight? Okay, stand up, and we'll bring a mic right to you. Go. Say your first name.
My name is Michael. I feel like Donald Trump was just cutting off Kamala and really just wouldn't even look at her or give her any respect at all to talk. And I feel like if that was me to be up there, I would want that same respect. And I just feel like he didn't give it to her.
All right, and how about the moderators? Do you think they were being even-handed with both candidates?
I feel like they were being even, but at the same time, I feel like Trump was cutting them off a lot and just going over time, just trying to get his point out. And yeah, I just feel like he wasn't being very respectful at all.
Okay, how many of you agree with what was your name?
Michael.
Michael. How many of you agree with what Michael is saying, that he wasn't being respectful? Okay. How many of you think that matters, whether he was being respectful or not? Okay.
Very much.
Maybe a third of you. Okay. All right. Who else has a comment on the fairness of what went on tonight? Stand up. Microphone. Say your first name.
My name is Daniel. I actually think that it wasn't fair for the exact opposite reason. I think that Trump was actually thinking versus Kamala kept speaking over him in the alternate light.
Joining us now are top behavior and body language experts, Greg Hartley and Scott Rouse. Now, this is Greg, this is Scott, and we have a show on Merit TV called Behavior Panel. You may have seen them on the internet before. If not, you may have seen them on Merit TV. If you haven't, you should, because they really deconstruct some of the most compelling interviews and events from all parts of culture. Interrogations by the police, political, pop, anything. And if you want to know kind of whether somebody's shooting you straight or not, or whatever, they really help you do that. And it's very interesting. And you can use it in your own life. Now, you guys watched the debate very closely.
Oh, yeah.
Were there things that jumped out at you guys? And if so, what?
Yeah, for sure. I would say right off the bat, you could tell that Kamala Harris came in first very stressed. You could see her body language was rigid and wooden, and she was moving odd, and her blink rate was about 60 beats per second. It's a big deal. We usually blink about 12 times, 60 per minute. We usually blink about 12 times per minute. Watch her eyes. That's stress. That doesn't mean anything except for she was stressed and prepared for a fight.
Okay, so that's a fight or flight reaction. She's got a lot of adrenaline pumping.
Yep.
But normally, it's 12 to 15 blinks per minute, right?
Right.
And she was 60?
60 is about what I measured, yeah.
So that's about 500%.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a lot of arousal.
Yeah, so what's happening in that person's body is this adrenal cortex is kicking in and they're going into kind of panic mode, and their body wants to either get out of the space or fight back. And so all these autonomic things are happening they have no control over.
Yeah, well, she was in a presidential debate.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
I mean, it is
Not taking anything away from that, and it's Trump. She's
yeah.
sitting 10 feet away.
So right from the start, you noticed that she was, in your opinion, trying to pick a fight.
Well, yeah, there's a great video we'll look at here just a second.
Well, let's do it right
Yeah.
now. There's no sense waiting.
Yeah, so...
All right, Scott, come over here.
What's great about this video is we get to see... Did anybody notice that Kamala Harris did not laugh, that thing that everybody calls a cackle? She laughed one time. Do you remember that? When did she laugh? Well, what I saw is she laughed when she baited him into a fight.
Okay, now, the reason this is important is, look, these guys have both been in debate prep, right? I mean, they've been like woodshedded. So they've been spending sometimes 6-8 hours a day preparing for this debate. And one of the strategies, and I've done a lot of witness prep in my career, where I've prepared witnesses for billion-dollar trials and prepared CEOs of large corporations to face the media in high-stress situations. And so you go in with strategies. And one of her strategies is she knows that former President Trump can be volatile, right? Explosive. You know, he can call people names and he can say, and so clearly, if I was preparing her, which I was not, I've been trying to interview her. I've got in so many requests, it looks like confetti on New Year's Eve. And she hasn't been talking to anybody, but I think she will. But if I was preparing her to debate Trump, one of the things I would be doing is saying, you got to get him upset. You got to get him mad. You got to bait him so he loses it and shows not his finest side.
And precisely what I would do as well, Doc. First of all, she's this big, he's this big. It makes him look like a bully. So she's smart to draw him into that, make him lose it. And all that adrenaline we're talking about takes away your thinking brain and makes you respond. That's what she's after. We said that her face, if you notice her face here, if I go over and mark, you can see in here, she's actually showing that big smile. Big smile. Her hands come up, her fingers are extended and joined. She's confident she's gotten him into it. That's genuine. That is not her nervous, throw her head back, protect her throat laugh. We can see her eyes are engaged. You see her moving her hands. She intended exactly what she's getting, and she's not answering the question she was asked. She's attacking him about his stuff.
Yeah, now look at this. Look at this expression right here.
That's contempt all day. That upper side, one-sided face rise is contempt in her part. Her chin is thrust forward instead of protecting her neck. When she laughs out of nervousness, she does ha, and it makes her look different. You can see it. She baited him in, and she's ready for it.
Okay, so there was nothing accidental.
Nothing accidental.
Okay. Now, Scott, you analyzed former President Trump's body language, and behavior, and say you noticed something very interesting about his eyes from the beginning of the debate. What did you notice?
A lot of people will count blink rate quite often. We'll talk about how many times a person blinks. But in this situation, what we're looking at from an eye perspective is called the intake eye. For example, if you're shooting a gun and you put your eye on the target, that eye opens up, and the other eye will kind of squint a little bit. However, when you're taking in information that you're thinking about that may be aggressive information toward you, then you've got inner dialogue going on, and you're fighting back and forth as you think about that. What am I going to do? What am I going to say?
All right,
And
what
that's
do we see in here?
And right here, we see that eye right there start squinting, and that's his right eye. That's his intake eye. And the more he thinks, as he's going aggressively toward Kamala, the more that eye squints.
We've been waiting for this. People have said this may be the biggest presidential debate of their lifetimes. Set a big, high expectation. What did you not hear that you were wanting to hear tonight? Stand up, we'll bring you a microphone. And if you want to say something, stand up so they can find you next. Say your name and go.
Hello, my name is Jarek. And what I didn't hear, just to give a little quick summary, I'm prior military, and I was in for 7 years. I just got out. And when I first joined, the country was not as divided as this. And so seeing the country where it's at now and seeing the division and the back and forth between candidates, I didn't hear enough of how we're going to unite. I feel as though, as being military, that the state of the country, the division, is in a way, it's like a backhand. It's like a slap in the face, because first and foremost, for me, it's not about left or right. It's about protecting the country. It's about serving the country. And so it just, to me, it's not enough talk about uniting as a country. We already have adversaries that are already watching us. And if we're divided, it doesn't help us at all, whatever side you're on. And so, one day I want to have a family. That's about it. I want to make sure I have a family in a place where the country is in a good state. I don't want to be in a country where we're always feeling as though there's tension and we may not be here for, as long.
You proud of being in the military?
Yes, sir, I am.
You proud to fight for this country?
Yes, sir.
People say thank you for your service like good morning. I really mean when I say thank you for your service, because I know you go out there and put yourself in harm's way for the rest of us so we can have freedom and the things that define this country. And, I hear people apologize for this country a lot and talk about what's wrong with this country, and we've got issues. We do. There's no question about it. But I love this country. I do. I stand up when the flag goes by. I put my hand over my heart when they play the national anthem, and I'm proud to be an American. I really am. And I thank you. When I say I thank you for your service, I mean it. I hear you saying you want to hear people talking about coming together instead of, carping at each other. And, I'm a little bit older than you. I've been bald since I was 12, but I'm older than you. But there was a time in this country where people could really disagree. And then when that meeting or debate was over, they could say, let's go have a sandwich and talk about things. They didn't have to hate each other or assassinate each other's character because they disagreed about even important things. And we really do need to get back to that. And I agree with you. That's something I wanted to hear. And that is, look, we can disagree about policies and issues, but, after 9/11, the president had a 94% approval rating because on 9/12, everybody was an American. On 9/12, we were all Americans. We weren't Republican, Democrat, we were all Americans. And I just pray to God that something like that doesn't have to happen again, before we're all Americans again. And we need to require that from our leaders. We need to require them to behave and start acting like adults. And if we do that as voters, you know what? They'll start behaving that way when they know that we require that. And this room is full of independents. They need every one of you. They need every one of your votes to win this election. And if you let them know that that's what you expect, then they'll start showing it.
What is an opportunity economy? What does that mean? Who's paying for the tax cuts that she's proposing? Because in my opinion, giving people down payment assistance on houses just drives inflation up higher. Who's paying for all of these child tax credits? That's just the taxpayers coming out of pocket and hurting the middle class again. So I don't think that we got to the meat and potatoes of the things that really matter. And we know from Donald Trump's presidency before, he can fix the economy. So I was really looking for her to make an impact on my thought process tonight, and she didn't deliver that.
All right, how many of you agree that you heard kind of buzzwords, but not real substance tonight? Raise your hand. Okay, raise it real high, because they're going to watch this. Really, they're going to watch this. They're going to say, Dr. Phil had a bunch of independents down there and asked some meaningful questions. They're going to watch this. I want to see that you all say, we heard buzzwords, we heard names of bills, but we didn't hear any substance. Let me ask you this. You said when they talk about we're going to get people down payments for homes, we're going to get child care. When you hear things like student loan forgiveness, even if you're one with a student loan, I had one young man on the show that paid $945 a month for 10 years and owed more than he started with. Honest to God, I wanted to pay it off for him. I felt terrible. It was for cooking school. Hell, I can cook. But nonetheless, there is no loan forgiveness. God will forgive you, but you still got to pay the loan. Somebody's got to pay that, right? When you hear about that sort of thing, does it impact you that somebody's got to pay this? That even if it's a worthwhile thing, you may still say, I'm willing to do it, but you're aware somebody's got to pay it, right? Yes. Stand up. This will be our final comment here.
My name is Deidre.
Deidre.
I've been a social worker for over 25 years. Funded bachelor's with the help of my parents, master's by student loans. I paid those student loans from 2000 to 2023, and my balance was greater than when I started. I applied, I worked for nonprofits, I had the opportunity to work with families, with children, with seniors, with adults who have experienced significant issues in their life and needed support. And so it was a privilege of mine to serve those. The Biden administration put forth I believe, the manpower into the public service loan forgiveness program to really look at who already qualified.
Right.
And in 2024, my balance was forgiven, which meant even though I had paid more than my borrowed amount plus interest, and I still had a greater balance, they said, we're done. You're done. Go forward. And so now I'm able to consider the opportunities ahead of me without the weight of that balance that I've been paying on for 23 and a half years. That should have been paid for.
Yeah, and you've been giving back along the way through the work you've been doing.
It's been an absolute pleasure to do so.
Well, thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
All right, guys, we're out of time. This has really been informative to me, and I promise you these candidates are going to watch this. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you at home for watching. If you didn't catch all of this, go to the Merit app, and you can watch it there. Special thanks to Greg Hartley and Scott Rouse. We appreciate you being here. Good night.